In the peaceful little town of Mossfield, mornings usually began with the smell of warm bread, sizzling pans, and clinking cutlery. But on this particular autumn morning, something felt wrong. Very wrong. When Mrs. Harrow woke up and prepared her usual breakfast, a bowl of oatmeal with a spoonful of honey, she suddenly gagged. "It tastes like nothing," she whispered, horrified. Her husband tried a sip from his mug, but even the coffee tasted like warm, flavorless water. Across town, children stared at untouched bowls, adults ignored their lunches, and even the dogs refused their edible treats. Restaurants panicked. Farmers panicked. Everyone panicked. Doctors offered vitamins, herbs, and all sorts of treatments, but none helped. The mayor tried ordering extra provision, and local eateries changed their menu every few hours, attempting to cater to the strange crisis, but all in vain. Worse still, every recipe failed. Fresh vegetables, cabbage, cucumber, onion, lost their aroma. Soups tasted like melted snow. Even the strongest alcohol, liquor, whiskey, or brandy, tasted weaker than plain water. The entire town became unwillingly sober. Rumors spread that Mossfield had been cursed, and surprisingly, the truth wasn't far from that. 3 days before the crisis, Mossfield had celebrated the reopening of its community refectory, a place known for its warm meals and lively gatherings. It had been upgraded with a gleaming new cafeteria, a polished buffet line, and a kitchen filled with brand new equipment: stoves, furnaces, pots, pans, and a stone-lined oven. The event was led by Chef Leora, a renowned gourmet whose cuisine was admired even in distant cities. Her tiny appetizers had always been the talk of the town. She could turn even a simple vegetarian stew into a masterpiece. For the grand banquet, she arranged colorful salads, soft breads, smoky barbecue, and steaming pots of soup served with flawless silver cutlery, ceramic plates, porcelain dishes, and delicate saucers. People cheered, people celebrated, and then, right after the event, Chef Leora vanished. The only clue she left behind was a handwritten recipe titled, "The Heart of Flavor Ritual. Do not lose this." Most people assumed it was another of her artistic jokes, but Rowan, her shy apprentice, knew better. By the 4th day of flavorlessness, the town felt hopeless. People wandered like ghosts, too weak to work and too uninterested to eat. Shops closed early, and the vibrant marketplace fell silent. Then, unexpectedly, something changed. A soft, warm smell drifted through the air, sweet, comforting, familiar. A crowd followed the scent until they reached the center square, where an unfamiliar wooden stall stood. Above it hung a hand-painted sign, "Leora's Midnight Takeaway." But standing behind the counter wasn't Chef Leora. It was Rowan, pale and trembling. I didn't open this," he admitted, voice shaking. "It appeared this morning, but Chef Leora left instructions. She said that if the town ever lost its taste, I should use this place to explain everything." Rowan lifted a small tin container sealed with a heavy brass lid. Inside swirled a glowing mist, soft pink and gold. "This is the heart of flavor," Rowan whispered. "It gives meaning to everything edible and drinkable in Mossfield. But during the banquet, someone stole half of it." Gasps erupted all around. Rowan continued, "Without it, even strong alcoholic beverages, or even tobacco, cigarettes, and cigars, lose all their essence. Our world becomes empty, tasteless, colorless." His voice cracked. and Chef Leora went after the thief. She hasn't come back. A group of volunteers, led by Rowan, rushed into the refectory searching for clues. The newly installed kitchen looked normal. Rows of kettles, polished pots, hanging spoons, and racks of cutlery. But then someone noticed a flickering glow behind the massive iron furnace. A small, narrow door, one no one remembered seeing before. Behind it, they heard chaotic noises, clattering metal, skittering feet, and the unmistakable sound of a lid bouncing on stone. They opened the door. Inside, crouched on the floor, was a bizarre creature. Its body resembled a wrinkled cabbage with thin arms shaped like twisted cucumbers and drooping ears the shape of sliced onions. It was greedily gathering the missing flavor essence into its tiny pot. "That's," Rowan gasped, "a flavorling!" Flavorlings were rare creatures, drawn to taste the way moths were drawn to light. The creature shrieked and darted through shelves, knocking over ceramic cups, porcelain bowls, and tin containers. People chased it using forks, pots, and even a random kettle someone had grabbed in panic. Finally, near the stove, the flavorling ran out of space. But instead of attacking, it held out its arms and whined, a high, trembling sound filled with fear, not malice. Through shimmering illusions in the air, the creature showed them. It had been overwhelmed by the banquet's scents. It wasn't trying to curse the town. It only wanted a taste, but accidentally drained far too much. Rowan sighed. It didn't mean harm, but if we don't repair the crystal soon, Chef Leora might never return. The town fell silent. They knew what they had to do. The cracked crystal needed to be restored through a ritual dish described in Leora's mysterious recipe. A meal crafted by many hands, shared freely, served with warmth. So the entire town gathered in the refectory. For the first time in days, they worked with purpose, even if they couldn't taste a thing. Vegetarians chopped vegetables. The chief carpenter repaired the large ceremonial mixing bowl. Children polished the silver cutlery until it gleamed like moonlight. Someone brewed fruit beverages using an old kettle. Bakers warmed porcelain dishes in the oven. Even the regular drinkers agreed to stay strictly sober so no measurements would go wrong. Rowan took charge, though his hands shook. He guided everyone, stirring ingredients over the glowing stove with a long wooden spoon. The flavorling sat on a lid, sniffing curiously. And then came the final step. Everyone in the room had to contribute a small portion of something they made or cared about. Vegetable broth, breadcrumbs, a spice mixture, even a special snack from the local takeaway shop. As each ingredient entered the pot, the crystal shard pulsed brighter. Finally, whoomph! A wave of warmth spread through the room. The crystal mended. Flavor returned. People gasped, tasting joyfully as hints of sweetness, saltiness, sourness, and warmth returned to their tongues. Across Mossfield, ovens hummed again, kettles boiled with meaning, and the first true hunger in days stirred like a waking giant. That night, Mossfield held an enormous outdoor feast under strings of lanterns. There were no elegant banquets, no celebrity chefs, no gourmet plating, just real people sharing real food again. The scent of grilled vegetables, hot stew, warm bread, and herbal drinks filled the air. Children laughed, old friends toasted with newly restored alcoholic beverages. The flavorling, now named Nibble, sat politely nibbling from a tiny saucer. And then, just as dessert arrived, Chef Leora finally returned, covered in soot but smiling. "You followed the recipe," she said proudly, "and you understood its meaning. Flavor is strongest when shared." The mayor declared that from that day onward, Mossfield would celebrate an annual festival called the Night of the Lost Appetite, a reminder that food is more than survival. It is comfort, connection, memory, and sometimes the very magic that brings people together. And so, Mossfield became a place where every meal mattered, every cuisine was celebrated, and every supper reminded them of the night they nearly lost all flavor and found something far more important in return.